Hey guys, this is OddOneGaming. This is going to be another Dragonheir SilentGods video. In today's video, I want to show you a team that's pretty fun. Like, I cannot believe, honestly, the fact that this team can do it. And that's going to be the team that I'm using to beat the Ancient Battlefield in Season 3. So, when it comes to these dungeons, like Ancient Battlefield, the Grave of Curse, Venom Rot, even the Heretical Ruins, every seasons they change up a little bit the mechanics, so it kind of gives us a different, sort of a different difficulty, makes it easier, makes it harder, they remove some stuff. So this season, for example, when it comes to the Ancient Battlefield, they have not changed much. The only thing that they have added is the fact that on this passive, let me see, is it the first one? So one of the passives, basically, every time the boss does damage with the ultimate form, he converts that damage into a shield, okay? So we still have the damage reduction that pops at every 35% HP lost. We still have the cleansing happening in the middle of the fight. So, those are a few things that you need to keep in mind. But let me jump in, let me show you the team that I'm using. And as always, I'm going to try and give you guys some options of what you can swap, what you can use differently and whatnot. But the principles are going to be the same, okay? So first things that you need to keep in mind is the person that's going to be furthest from the boss, which in my case is Fenja. This person needs to have a high enough resistance in order to resist the hit from the boss, that's this one, and then it enters the backfire where it reduces the damage it does and increases the damage it takes. If you don't get this one to happen, if you don't block the stun, then you might have a, it might be a little bit harder. However, if you have somebody built with resistance, that should be fine. Or if you have somebody like where is she? I should have built her maybe for this, but I didn't. If you have somebody like a Vinyara that has a passive that basically just straight up ignores that control effect, so she's immune to it, she's the perfect candidate over here in the back. But if you don't, just basically Fenja can be your best, I don't know, one of your best healers maybe, or you could go the route of having Voresh in the back over there, have enough accuracy to land his debuffs, and then have about, I think around like what I have, 170, I think around 170 resistance should be just fine for stage 9. The reason I'm saying that is because we do have Ardrith as well. Ardrith is MVP in this team as well, because on her passive, once I hit the 10 stacks, gives everybody 30% more defense and 100 resist, and that's gonna be huge, okay? 100 resist means you don't need to build as much for Fenja. Then the next one is gonna be Elminster. Elminster is basically in this team for 2 reasons, and hopefully everybody has him if you're playing Season 3, because he's just amazing. He brings us a shield on the battle skill, which is just huge, but he also brings us the attack penalty, and that's really important. You want that attack penalty to land there at the right time. Then we have Voresh in order to deal with the buffs that the boss puts up. So, he puts up increased attack, increased defense. You mostly care about removing that increased attack, and I'm going to show you that while it happens. Then Ardrith obviously in there for the heals and her passive and the ultimate, she's just amazing. And then Gerthen is just straight up DPS. So let's start doing this fight, and then at the end I'm going to show you the preset as well. But the way that you're going to see I made my team is so that I take the first stun, that happens. But then after that, what's going to happen is my Voresh, because he has Witch's Remains, goes first, then my DPS, and then just before this one over here, my Elminster lands the attack penalty. You basically want to have the attack penalty, especially before this big hit happens. However, if you land it at the right time before this, you basically cover most of the hits and you should be just fine. You can see the boss puts up increased attack, he just removes it. Elminster keeps coming back to this one at the right time. Then when it comes to Ardrith, I just let her full YOLO. And the thing that I did for Fenja, you're going to see, after this happens, she goes and heals. And because I have the Gatekeeper staff on her, she's going to also put a little bit of a shield on us. Which means that when the boss does damage, this one's not going to proc. The part where it converts 80% damage dealt into a shield should not proc as much, because again, this one works kind of the same way that the Grave of Curse works, where if you don't take actual damage to your actual HP, as you can see, the boss doesn't get any shield, okay? You see, got a tiny shield, that's because he broke through our shields and did damage. But if you have shields before that, then it just works fine. if you don't have the Gatekeeper staff, okay, let's see, are we gonna survive without decreased attack? So again, you see, we can survive even if we have bad RNG. We had Elminster not land the attack penalty, but we still survived. However, because this team has quite a few buffs in there, you see that the boss's stacks go up. It can become tricky if the attack penalty doesn't land towards the end, or if we do not remove the attack penalty towards the end. So, you know, it's not perfect. This team is not ideal. However, this is the team that I built on day 14, okay? We just unlocked Ancient Battlefield yesterday, so the fact that I could get to stage 9 is you know, I'm pretty happy about it. It does help that I do have some good artifacts, okay? I'm not gonna lie. It does help that I have legendary artifacts. However, when it comes to the heroes, I mean, Ardreth and Elminster are pretty much free to play. Then I have 2 epics, and then only Fenja's the only other one that's kind of like a legendary. So I'm not gonna call this team free to play friendly, okay? But still, it should be pretty obtainable. It's just, as always, keep in mind the principles of what I'm bringing in the team. Attack penalty, especially before the ultimate. Bring somebody that removes buffs or blocks them, such as, you know, we do have Voresh. We do have somebody like a Victor that was introduced recently. You can use somebody like a Grover. Basically, whatever works best for your team synergy. For me, it works best to have the synergy between Ice, because Gerthin is my DPS. Obviously, whoever's gonna be your DPS, you will want to have the 3-person synergy if you can. So for example, I could, if I swapped Gerthin for somebody like an Average, I would still have that 3-man synergy because it's Fire and Radiance, and I would have Ardreth and Elminster, so you know, I would still benefit from that. Basically, want to kill it as fast as possible so the boss doesn't ramp up too much, because again, this team brings a few buffs from Elminster's battle skill. He puts control immunity from, what's her name, Ardreth, putting increased defense on her battle skill. From Gerthin, putting buffs on herself. That can be a problem. And even Fenja does some buffs on the battle skill. I don't care about her buffs on ultimate, which is the resistance sub, because as you saw and as I mentioned, okay, it seems like we just get stunned by some bad RNG, but as I mentioned, she's gonna do her boss on her ultimate after the boss's ultimate, and as you can see, which means all of these should fall off by the time the boss gets to this part and removes them. Basically, when this happens, the boss, I cannot speak. The boss removes buffs, and if he removes buffs, he gains a stack depending on how many he removed. That's basically 3% damage for each buff removed. So now he has 3 times 45, that's 135% more damage, which obviously is going to be painful. And if this fight is going to keep going on, we're going to lose. However, we're getting close towards the end of it. Like now, I think we should have one more hit from Gerthin, and boom, there we go. Job done. This is the team. This is the fight. It's you know, I really like this team because again, it's not the craziest when it comes to all legendaries, all the crazy stuff and whatnot, but I do have strong artifacts. I'm gonna show you the artifacts, but 3 minutes and 32 team is pretty solid. I'm really happy with that. Now, first of all, let's have a look at the presets, because obviously this team is full auto. So the way that I have it is basically I have Voresh to go at 12, like Voresh is basically whenever he goes, but I make him go every 20 seconds, and then I do the same thing for the DPS, which in my case is Gerthin, but I make sure she goes a little bit for the first time after Voresh, so that when the DPS does the damage, Witch's Remains is already out there, okay? That's why you see the 20, even though Gerthin is on 16. Because of the level and because she doesn't have enough ice crystals, you want her to have the defense penalty before she does her ultimate. Whereas if you were in a team where you had somebody else, and maybe like a Sheena in the team that kept the ice crystals up, and that means she would do battle skills over and over again, then I would let her full YOLO. But because we don't have the ice crystals, she does more damage on the ultimate, so that's why I have it set like this. Then when it comes to Fenja, I have her at 18, and then every 18 seconds, that's the full rotation of the boss. 18 seconds, which means she is under the 18 seconds complete recharge. This means she's gonna always heal after the boss does the swap back to the shield and, you know, removes all our buffs and whatnot, and does that massive damage, which means we're gonna be healed and have shields. The reason why it's 18 is because, well, it's not gonna do it exactly as the boss switches for or before. It's gonna do it after, because she does take the first stun. As you noticed, she takes the first stun, which means she does it straight after the boss does the ultimate, and we're not gonna have to worry about resistance up being removed. Then when it comes to Elminster, like I said, he's at 13.5 initial, which means just before the second to last hit. This one's going to cover most of the hits with attack penalty. And then again, every 18 seconds. And then Ardress, she's full YOLO. Now, when it comes to the gear sets, I do have like this. I have on Elminster the Hourglass, the Rift Hourglass, but this one's not mandatory. If you have the Spiritual Incense Burner, you can use that. Or if you have enough skill haste between these two and the sets, you should be just fine. What you need is around 55 to 60 skill haste in order to reduce his ultimate at 18 seconds. You basically want this to be 18 seconds. You don't see the 18 seconds here because this one does not count. It only counts once you go into the battle. But basically, Elminster is there, has enough accuracy to 20, and then as much enlightenment as I could because that's what gives him the bigger shields on the battle skill. Now, the second one is going to be Ardress. Well, Ardress, I gave her the horn, but this one doesn't bring me any damage, honestly, because she does it on Elminster. It doesn't bring much damage, so this one can be any other artifact. Again, this one, I could have used Mask of the Lark. I could have used, I don't know, Craven's Knight, anything that gives her some defense and HP. One of the best ones would obviously be the Mask or the Scarab in case she gets tricky low, but she's not because she's just a beast. And then on her, I mostly focus defense and HP. So she's just in there to do, you know, survive, proc her passive, do her healings and all of that good stuff. Then when it comes to Voresh is in the Witch's Remains. I do believe this one's pretty much mandatory. However, because it's a single target, this one could be the crown, okay? This one could be the crown of the unclean. You'd obviously kill it slower, and it might be trickier. You might not be able to do it in time because the boss might, you know, rack up his damage too fast, and you might just be killed. But basically, Voresh is at 190. The reason why he's not at 220 is because we have the 3-man synergy. What do I mean by that? Let me show you. If you go to the elemental synergy, you see we have the frost and poison, and I do have the affinity of 50 extra accuracy. So that means I need 220 minus 50. I need around 170 accuracy in order for him to land his debuffs. And apart from that, I just went with some attack, some crit rate. It's not perfect, you know. I mean, I have some, attack percent, HP percent, you know. They're not the perfect sets. I barely farmed any Venom, so whatever pieces of gear I have on him, that's what I used. Then when it comes to Finja, she's the one that, honestly, if you're doing this team specifically, I have a feeling like you pretty much want to have this staff for a little bit of extra survivability. But if you do a team something different, and if you have maybe somebody else that brings a shield that you would use before that, it could work without having the Gatekeeper staff. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe you bring somebody like a Gladros, give him resist. He could be your shielder. You would put the shield before the boss goes so that, you know, you can take those hits. But this one's, I think this one's pretty much mandatory. Like, I'm not going to be, you know, beating around the bush with this artifact, but this one's really helpful. Without it, I'm not sure I would be able to survive. Then I have, like I said, 173 resist on her. Then I tried to give her as much enlightenment as I could with some survivability. The reason for that is her healing is based off of enlightenment, okay? It targets max HP and enlightenment, so in order for her to do more healing, she needs more enlightenment, and that's what I have on her. It's now max artifact, HP, resistance on this one, enlightenment on the chest, add some, what was it? Add a triple resist. This one. She even has a crit damage glove. Just use this because this one had the triple resistance, but if she doesn't survive, you can try and give her a resistance chest instead, and then go with an HP or defense percent glove, and you should be just fine. And then the last one, Gerthin, she's going to be full DPS build. She's 89% crit rate, 137 crit damage, 3.8k attack. She has the Ravatrix roots, which this was the artifact from last season's Famiander, but again, it's not mandatory. This one's amazing and is really helpful, brings a ton of damage, but it's not mandatory. You can use whichever is the best artifact that you have. It can be the eyeball, it can be the, I don't know, it can be the arcane music box if you don't have quite that much crit rate. So whatever artifact brings you the most damage, that's what you will use. And then when it comes to the other stuff, attack, you can see Rare Rune here with defense, flat attack, not even attack percent, crit rate glove, you know, some crit rate, crit damage, some crit rate and defense, and that's about it. So it's not the craziest, but it works, and I'm really happy it works. Oh yeah, one important thing, use Ardress lead. 30% defense in all battles is massive. I tried it with the attack aura, it didn't quite work. We died, and you know, it was getting too scary at the end. So with the defense aura from Ardress, it just works amazing. And from my point of view, the MVP of this season is going to be still Audrey, and maybe for many more seasons to come, especially when you progress through stuff. The amount of survivability that Audrey brings from her Captain Aura, from her passive, from her healing is just mind-blowing. I love her. I'm really happy I got her. I hope most of you have her because she's 100% worth building and using in almost every single one of your teams. But anyway, this is gonna be it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy this video, just leave a like to this video, leave a comment, let me know what you think about this team. Subscribe to the channel to see when I upload next, and guess we're gonna see each other next one. Peace, love, take care, everyone. Bye, guys.